So I am so excited to introduce our next contributor here, somebody that I had the honor of meeting 5-6 years ago. I don't know. It's been a little over half a decade when I first met Mr. Jeff Hoffman, and immediately I was blown away by his just down-to-earth accessibility, right? Uber successful. If you don't know, Jeff Hoffman actually invented the kiosks at the airport, by the way. Priceline, so many different startups. He's TV producer, he's music producer, he has done movies, all sorts of different things. But what I love is his heart to give. He is somebody that has achieved at very high levels, self-made, I guess, with friends, billionaire, but just so grounded in humanity, in people, in service, right? And really embodies so much of, what I hope to be in terms of success, but also like just really having a heart to give. And he spends so much of his time traveling and giving to others. And so just so y'all know, he recently received a humanitarian award from Disney and Be Great, as well as a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Los Angeles Tribune for his business and all his philanthropy, all his contributions. He was honored with Champion of Entrepreneurship Award from JP Morgan, Citibank, Rising Tide Capital, as well as receiving George Brown Award for International Cooperation from the U.S. State Department. Tons of other awards. I'm not going to sit here and read all of this, but I'll tell you guys, he is a man on a mission to serve, to use his gifts in this world. Very big on entrepreneurship, very big supporter of women all around the world, and giving them the tools and resources to be able to create the life of their dreams. And so I'm just so excited for you guys and for us to get to have Mr. Jeff Hoffman here. If we can give him a round of applause, bring him up.
So I am actually really glad to be here. I got the chance to do this with the same group in 2019 in Nashville as well. And I've just been supporting GoBundance. I do a lot of the GoBundance events around the country. I've been doing that for a long time. I just came in from Australia. We just had our nonprofit, the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we teach people all over the world how to start their own business and gain economic independence. And we're on the ground now in 200 countries, I'm proud to say. In fact, we just added Iraq and Afghanistan, which you can imagine how difficult that was. I literally was supposed to be mentoring women both in Israel and Palestine 2 weeks from now, because I work with women on both sides of that border. And you can guess, obviously, we're not doing that. I will tell you before I start my presentation, though, my favorite women's group was I got a phone call from Vietnam. A woman said, we just formed the Vietnamese Women's Business Association. Will you come? So I flew to Vietnam. I went in the room. There were 400 Vietnamese women and me. And I went up in the front, and they said, welcome to the Vietnamese Women's Business Association. And I'm standing at the front. And I said, what is it you guys do? And there was a long pause, and they said, we were hoping you knew. So that was a particularly interesting few days in Vietnam, trying to figure out how Vietnamese women could start their own businesses, but some of them have done amazing things since then. So, it's so significant. I used to advise Obama in the White House on entrepreneurship, and one of the things he asked me to do was go to Egypt post-revolution. Which I went, except that it wasn't post-revolution, it was still going on. And what was pretty amazing was my job was to help them rebuild their country themselves once they ran off the dictator and they were free to do it. And I have to tell you guys, the press conference I did at the end of it, I stood up and said to the whole country of Egypt, I had to say this, I said, your women are amazing, because all the people that came to me to rebuild the company was pretty much the women. They're like, it's our country, it's our children, we're going to rebuild it ourselves. So it was just amazing to see the power when women are given the access, the education, and the resources to do the stuff they always wanted to do anyway. So we're going to talk today about, this is kind of the topic, but we're going to kind of go on the journey of the career of an entrepreneur and kind of lead into the giving back part of it. And I'm going to share my story with you. But I want to start with the first part Okay, never mind. All right, I thought we were just doing the legacy one, but we're not today, right? Where is, okay. So I'm going to give you the advice of, this is what happens when you're in a different country every day. Usually I walk back there and say, what slides did I give you? Clearly I failed to do so today. I had to stop in, I'll just tell you guys this just for fun. I had to stop in Dallas to pick up an award that I had no idea what I was getting, and I didn't know I was speaking at it. And it turned out it's this organization called the Sovereign Wealth Fund that was honoring me they gave me this thing called the Global Disruptor Award that I found out there from the press release that I was the first American they've ever given it to. But it's the world's wealthiest families in this private event, and I was standing in this room. So this is the room I was in before you guys, and there was so much security. I asked what was going on, and I was just telling Jason about this. There was, I kid you not, $13 trillion in one room. Wow. They were the world's wealthiest funds and families, and I couldn't get in the room, and I was the honoree. Security. Seriously, security would not let me. They wouldn't even let me near the building. They kept telling me, you need to walk away. And they were having an event. I said, the event is actually for me. And they're like, sure, right, it is. They were bringing in the sheikh from Dubai in his jet, and they were like clearing me out. And people were like, where are you? We need to get you ready. I was like, I can't go to the event, apparently. Anyway, what we are going to do now, remember, am I fired yet? I was going to give you some advice on building a business, then we're going to talk about giving back. I was thinking this was just a legacy one, so let's start with this. The key, and here's the point of all this. The point of all this is living an epic life, right? The whole goal is for people to live the life. In fact, let me tell you the definition of success. Because for me, we were raised, the definition of success is usually something like fame and money. When somebody drives by in their Bentley and they're rich, you say, man, he made it, right? But I have billionaire friends who are miserable. When you see somebody on TV and she's famous, you say, wow, she made it. And I have very famous friends who are miserable. So that can't be it, right? We live in a day and age where Kate Spade commits suicide, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams. If it was just money and fame, all these people would be happy. It's not. Meanwhile, my best friend in the world for a long time, this guy named Michael, had no money, no fame, and was the happiest person that I'd ever met. Unfortunately, we lost Michael in a tragic accident, but I learned a big lesson from his death because one day Michael said to me, Michael used to do mountain climbing, and I used to say to this guy all the time, you need to stop because you're going to fall off a cliff and die. And one day Michael said something to me. He said, Jeff, you're right, that could happen. And he said, but I'll take 40 years of living life the way I live it versus 90 of what everyone else is doing. And we lost him at 42. And all I could think was, in his soul, did he know? And I started to realize, why would anyone say, I'll take 40 years of what I'm doing versus 90 of everyone else? And I figured out the answer. The answer is because he was living the life he actually intended to live. And that's not what everybody's doing, right? Everybody, by the way, none of this is in this presentation. I'm way off course right now. Everybody, so it launched me on this thing of asking people, when you were young, what was your vision of an epic life? What were you going to do? What were you going to be? You know what people say to me? That's when I was young, I had all those crazy, wild dreams, but now I've got a husband, a family, a mortgage, a business. People would say to me this, they're like, Jeff, at some point you got to grow up. And I kept on thinking, are you growing up or are you just giving up? How is that growing up? How is it growing up okay to just say all the stuff I really wanted to do? I don't do that now because I'm a grown-up, right? And that bothered me. If that's the definition of growing up, I literally hope that I never grow up because I wasn't okay with that, people accepting that. So the reason I'm giving you this whole preamble is that the whole reason to be an entrepreneur and to build a business is to create the life you always thought you were going to have. Right? I have a slide. I don't think I have it here today, especially since I didn't know what slides I sent. The slide says this: your business should be the vehicle that takes you to the life you want to live, not the obstacle that's preventing you from living it. And so that's why I'm telling you all this, because what I'm going to share with you were the keys to build successful businesses precisely so you could live the life you always thought you were going to live. right? So step one, that's why I became an entrepreneur. By the way, I had one job in corporate America. I hated it and it hated me. For some strange reason, corporate America fails to value sarcasm the way I do. So things did not go well in the regular meetings with management and me. So I quit because everybody, here's what parents tell kids, right? We all do. You go to college to get a good education so you can get a good job at a good company with a good paycheck. So I did. I got a good job at a good company with a good paycheck. But you know what? No one ever asked me, do you have a good life? Right? No one asked me if I had a good life, just if I had a good paycheck and a good job. And I didn't have a good life because I hated my job and I hated my boss. So I quit to be an entrepreneur specifically to design the life I always thought I was going to live. And that's really what I'm here to share with you guys today. That's why I'm telling you these tips. I want people to build successful businesses so that that can be the foundation of a successful life. So now we can go to this. The first thing to do to be successful as an entrepreneur is to solve real problems in the world, because that is not what people do. People pitch me everywhere I go, their ideas all the time now. I actually was at an event a couple days ago, and I swear the guy at the urinal next to me was facing sideways, right? And I'm like, okay, something really weird is going on right now. I don't want to look, right? And I finally glanced over, and he's like, Mr. Hoffman, let me just tell you about my idea. And I was like, can I finish, and can we meet outside? And he said, it won't take long. And I said, can you just wait outside? And he was pitching me while I was going to the bathroom. And the guy next to me rolled his eyes like, that's crazy, isn't it? And I said, I can't believe it. And he goes, Mr. Hoffman, right? And he's like, while I'm standing here, let me tell you about my idea, right? So I hear pitches everywhere that I go. But I created this, and I say, who wants one of these, right? I got this great idea, this invention, your business. And they say, I don't know, we'll see when I start marketing. That's one way, right? Is you can create things that you think are good, or you could just solve a real problem in the world. Everywhere you go, every day, the world is filled with real problems. But you know what the difference between successful entrepreneurs and everybody else? Everybody complains about the situation and then goes back to what they were doing. The successful entrepreneurs stop and say, wait, is this a problem for someone else? So let me tell you the story of my friend Lars. Lars isn't even American. He's from Denmark. Lars used to get lost all the time back in the day of paper maps. I don't know if you guys remember MapQuest, but you had to print it. And then as soon as you got to road closed, you were screwed, right? Because the printout didn't care that the road was closed. You just sat there. And paper maps, right? I couldn't even fold them. I would just throw it out the window and get a new one every time I needed a map. Lars was stuck on the side of the road, lost. And he's like, I wonder how many other people are literally sitting in their side of their road, lost right now. When you're in a problem, a big problem, the question is this a problem for a lot of people? And instead of complaining about it, my most successful friends said, I'm just going to fix this. So Lars was sitting there looking up in the sky saying, I don't know what to do. I can't read the map. I don't know where I am. But while he was sitting there thinking, how many other people are lost right now? And he was looking up in the sky, he got an idea. And what Lars told me is, they say, wait a minute, there's satellites in the sky, and they can probably see me. And if they see me, they know where I am. And if they know where I am and I tell them where I'm going, can't they just tell me? So my friend Lars is the creator of Google Maps, not Google. They bought this technology, Google, from Lars for $1.1 billion. I went to visit him in London, and I said, I can't find your house because there's like an office building here. He said, no, that's not a building, that's my house now. It looks like a castle. Why? Because Lars solved a problem that everybody had. So for me, thinking about that, and this was, well, I'll tell you guys a story. I quit that job, and I was 20-something years old, and I was broke and I was unemployed after my mom was calling her friends saying, he's such a good boy, he has a good job with a good company, a good paycheck. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just walked out. And I was unemployed. I was broke. I was 20-something years old. My mom's calling her friends saying, remember what I said about my kid? I was wrong. He's an idiot, right? He had a good job. My mom, I grew up with a single mom, 4 kids. She had 3 jobs. We were poor. Tribute to my mom is the fact that recently my sister pointed out that we never knew we were poor, right? And that's pretty good mom work. If I was poor and didn't know I was poor until years later, and I was like, Mom, you did that? We lived there, right? We never went to a restaurant, a vacation, anything our entire lives. We were poor. We just didn't care because my mom didn't make that the focus. But anyway, I just quit the job. And now everybody's mad at me. I am broke. I am unemployed. I go to the airport. I buy an airline ticket to see an investor. Well, I'm sorry, excuse, a mentor. He didn't know he was my mentor because I hadn't hidden in the bushes in his front lawn yet. That was my plan. I was going to talk this guy into mentoring me. The airport line, back then you had to check in with a person. The line was an hour and a half long and I missed the flight. But while I'm standing there, I'm talking to the other people in the line. How many other people, you guys love standing in an hour? Everybody's complaining. And so I'm thinking, why would I invent a product to sell when there's a problem right here that everybody has, right, to solve? The second part, though, I want to tell you about solving real problems is value equation. Value equation is the answer to this question. Would enough people in the world pay you more to solve the thing you're solving or for the product you're selling than it costs you to make it? If the answer is no, then congratulations, you have a hobby, which is what most people that come to me have. A hobby is something you're spending your money on and no one's paying you for it. A business is something everybody is calling you and saying, please take my money. And if you're not in that case, maybe there's a better product or a better business for you to launch. So I was sitting there. Remember what I told you at the beginning? I want your business to be the thing that is creating the life you always thought you were going to have. You know what mine was? I was going to go see the world. I was going to go visit, because I grew up poor, and again, I'll tell you guys the real story. I had to do a book report in 6th or 7th grade, and I did Mark Twain. And in the cover of the book, Mark Twain said, travel is the fatal enemy of prejudice. And I was up all night. I ran home to my mom, and I said, I know the guy's dead, but he wrote something in my book for me, because I was sure of that. And I said, Mom, what does that mean? And my mother literally told me that what Mark Twain said was that hate comes from ignorance. Ignorance comes from lack of understanding, and lack of understanding comes from never spending time with people that don't look like you. So I decided then, for me to ever be the man I want to be someday, I need to go see the world. Mark Twain's right. I need to go visit families and people all over the world. In fact, when I told my friends that, you know what they said? Dude, you're broke and your mom's broker, just go get a job. You're never going to go see the world, right? There's no job that's going to pay you to go see the world. And you know what I'm thinking the whole time? You're right, there isn't, so I'll just make that job, right? So that is all about intent, guys. What is your intent? Because if you don't have an intent to do something different with your life, it'll never happen. You're busy and it's December again. You're busy and it's December again. Intent is important. By the way, I write my next goal on a white index card on my bathroom mirror. There's always a card on my bathroom mirror of what my next intent is, so that every single day I see it and I don't forget what I really am supposed to be focusing on, so another year doesn't go by. So I wrote on that card, visit 50 countries before you die. But I actually had a secret. When I told my friends that, they ridiculed me. I actually, guys, had a secret plan I never told anybody. I was going to have dinner with 50 families in 50 cultures in 50 countries in their home. Right? How are you, for example, how are you judging a Muslim family? Because I heard people that hated Muslims when you don't even know one. So this was my idea. I will go to every Muslim country. I will have dinner with families in their home with their children and hang with them before I ever judge anyone. My big secret plan, 50 families, 50 homes in 50 countries. I told no one that. But I think what you're starting to see here is, why did I create travel companies? Right? Because I wanted my business to lead me to the life that I wanted to have. The moment was right here. So I'm standing in the airport, I'm broke, I'm unemployed, 20-something years old, I missed my flight. There's a problem. What I'm showing you is the intersection between your business and your life. There's a problem that everyone has. I'm asking people in the airport, isn't this annoying? And everyone's groaning. And then I did value equation. I just out of curiosity, I was like, hey dude, would you give me $5 if I could get you out of this hour and a half line? You know what people were doing? By the way, I was stuck in the airport because I don't even have bus fare home at this point. And people were saying, I'll give you $10, just get me out of this line. And people were bidding 15, 20. I was like, geez, I wish I had your boarding pass for you. So that is why I created those. I went home and I said, whoa, I got a really cool idea. I solved the problem. I get paid. So now I'm a grown up, right? And I get to see the world. So you've probably seen those in airports everywhere in the world, right? But you know what my job was? My phone rings and it's Lufthansa. Can we fly you to Germany because we want to buy your kiosk? And then it's KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines. Can we fly you to the Netherlands? Suddenly, I'm being flown around the world. In every country, I take the challenge of trying to talk a family into letting me have dinner in their home. Those were some good stories. And at the end of every trip, they're like, Mr. Hoffman, don't forget your check. And I was like, my check? And they're like, we'd like to buy it. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this? I'm flying to a different country every week, meeting families, and I'm getting paid for it. It's all I ever wanted to do. Your business should be designed to create the life you always wanted to live, okay? That's really my core message today. I was able to go, well, just for the heck of it, I think I'm at, for families in dinner, in their homes, I think I'm at like 112 countries now that I've been able to do that in, and honestly, that's all I ever wanted to do with my life. It just turns out I got paid for it, right? When we created Priceline, and Booking.com is us as well, if you've used that, it's the same company. We built that company because we wanted to pay our bills and travel, right? And today, the companies continue to grow since we all left it, but when people would, I had a teacher in a school say, stop telling our children to just chase their dreams. It's irresponsible. They need to get a job. And I said, you're the teacher? And that's the messaging? She said, they just need to get a job. Okay, that was pretty disturbing, because if chasing your dreams was irresponsible because you need a job, again, I'm not here to talk to you guys about money, but we started those companies, Priceline.com, Booking.com, on a table that size with a group about that size, and it's worth $113 billion today. So apparently you can pursue your dreams and actually still be a grown-up, despite what people were telling me. The next part of this, win a gold medal at one thing. And I will explain how important that is. When I hear people pitching, okay, let's be clear though, there's no right or wrong, what I'm going to tell you. It's different paths to take. One path is a lifestyle business. If you want to have a great life, make good money, and live really well, that's a lifestyle business decision. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is the answer to the question people ask me, how did you guys achieve the big success? And that's what I'm answering now. If that's not your interest, you don't have to listen to this part. And so the reason I'm telling you that is because there's messaging out there about multiple streams of income, and there's people starting 4 different businesses to generate more wealth, etc. What I'm going to tell you is the people that achieved the highest level, none of them had multiple streams of income, multiple products. No one was the one-stop shop for everything. The key to massive explosive growth, I actually teach a workshop called Explosive Growth, is to win a gold medal at one thing. So I will give you the example. In the early internet days, there was really the first 3 internet companies that made money. Time magazine at the time called them the big 3. It was Amazon, eBay, and Priceline. And so the Amazon guys, Pierre and Jeff, I used to talk to them. Sorry, the eBay guys. And then this Jeff at Amazon I used to talk to. Actually, it was funny, I was doing a TV interview, and the lady said, what was the key to success in the internet? And I said, apparently you just have to be named Jeff, because that's working out pretty well for all the Jeffs. eBay was Jeff, Amazon was Jeff, and we were doing our thing over here. So I'm talking to Bezos one day, and Jeff said, someday Amazon will be the internet of everything, but you guys forget that for years you can only buy a book. And he said to me, first I need to be the best damn bookseller on the planet. Okay? He said, I won't sell anything else till I'm the best damn bookseller on the planet. My other friend, Tony Hsieh, do you know this company? Tony built Zappos. And one day, Tony, I said, what are you doing? He said, right now, I just want to be the best damn shoe seller on the planet. What is my message to you? The key to big success is to be the best damn something on the planet. You can't do that. The reason I use the gold medal analogy, win a gold medal, is you've never seen an Olympian that won a gold medal in track and field, then played on the baseball team, then swam. It's so hard to win a gold medal at anything. You're not going to do it running 4 businesses or even 4 products. Businesses come to me and they say, can you help me grow? And I say, yes, but you have to shrink first. You have to get rid of 3 of the 4 business lines you have. Take your gold medal. So your homework assignment is to figure out, what is your gold medal product? What is the one thing you can crush? By the way, how did that affect us? Early on, we were selling vacations, cruises, hotels, airline tickets. And Bezos said to me, I'm just going to be the best damn bookseller on the planet. So you know what we did? We went back and we asked ourselves, what's our gold medal? We don't really know cruises. We don't really even know airline ticketing is that well. What we know is hotels. In your heart, you know what your gold medal product is. Ours was hotels. So we got rid of all those other things. By the way, you'll see some of them on there, but the only thing you've ever seen in a Priceline or Booking.com commercial is what? Hotels. The company is the world's largest seller of hotels, and we really only have one product. The company does $20 billion a year in revenue, and 95% of it is hotels. Our gold medal is hotels. We put all our effort on the thing we could win, like Jeff did with books and Tony did with shoes. Win a gold medal at one thing. Next thing I want to share with you. Find your gold medal talent. These are just my terms, by the way, gold medal product and talent and stuff. Gold medal talent is important. The question is, what is your strongest talent? And so I'll make that clearer by giving you an example. Somebody said to me one day about us, our gold medal product was hotels, right? That's what we sell at Priceline at Booking.com. But someone said, you guys are travel agents. I said, this is what made me think about gold medal talent. We're not travel agents at all. I'm a software engineer, actually, by trade. So we don't really know anything about travel per se. Why were we successful? Because of our algorithms. Our talent is algorithms. The reason that this company does business, we started on a little table in Connecticut and we're now in 190 countries. How did we do that? Because we wrote these algorithms that are smarter than the revenue managers of every hotel in the world. Our algorithms today would be called AI. They're learning algorithms that figure out everything you need to know about the hotel market and the room you're bidding on and the hotel you want. It's making decisions, looking at literally millions of data points in real time, saying, you know what, $63, give her that hotel room for $63. We were outperforming all the hotel professionals at every hotel chain in the world because our algorithms are so intelligent. Our gold medal talent is writing algorithms, not selling travel. So why is that important? Because that's your North Star, okay? When somebody presents a new business opportunity to you, the first question you ask is, does this require my gold medal talent? If it does not, don't do it, because you're only going to be average. So when someone said, why don't you guys offer luggage for the people traveling? Because it doesn't take an algorithm to sell luggage, so we're not interested. So I had this conversation years ago with Jeff Bezos, and he said, not using my term, gold medal talent, but Jeff said, yeah, I know what ours is. He said, Amazon, our gold medal product is books, our talent is delivery, okay? Why were they the first company to experiment with drones? Because their talent is delivery. Why did they invent Amazon Prime? Because they're all about delivery. Who is the first company in the world to do same-day delivery of a product? Amazon. And so Jeff bought Whole Foods. And I said to him, why'd you buy a grocery store? He said, I have no interest in groceries. I'm just going to figure out how to deliver them. If it's not a complex delivery, Bezos won't touch it. His gold medal talent is delivering things. His gold medal product was books, but he doesn't do things unless they require delivery. It confused a lot of people when they bought Whole Foods. And he's like, I don't care about groceries. He said, no one has cracked the delivery problem for food, and I'm going to try to figure that out. Why did he launch a space company? Because all the research and scientific payloads, he said, I'm going to figure out how to deliver things using space too. That's what they do. So my next homework assignment for you guys is, what is your gold medal talent? What is it, the thing you're so good at doing that you shouldn't do anything that doesn't require it? Okay? So ours was algorithms. If it's sophisticated and it needs really intelligent software, I probably want to do that one because my team is amazing at algorithms. By the way, when I asked Zappos that, you know what his was? Customer service. Right? That's the Zappos thing, is their customer service. They make people happy. They literally wrote a book called Delivering Happiness. And so before Tony passed away, he asked me to come to Zappos and give a talk to all Zappos employees. So I went to their headquarters, and it doesn't say we're a shoe company. And when you go in the entrance, he wrote on the front wall, we are a customer service company that happens to sell shoes. He knows what his talent is. Figure yours out, your gold medal talent. This is super, super important. When you ask small businesses and startups, right, what is the key to growth? What do you need to grow? Everybody says funding, right? It's a crutch for you to think that money is going to solve your problems. Everybody says funding, but the truth is the most valuable capital in the world is not financial capital, it's human capital. The key to success is not more funding. The key to success is talent. And so let me tell it to you this way. If I gave a bunch of money to a group of average people, do you know what happens? They spend that money and then they call me and ask for more, and nothing's happened. You cannot build greatness on the backs of average. Okay? That's really important for you to go home and have an honest look at your people. You can't build greatness on the backs of average. It doesn't work that way. If I give a small amount of money to rock stars, you come back and you're like, how do you? In fact, I'll tell you a story that I don't usually share. At the very beginning, when we were launching the Priceline companies, I opened an office and I told all the employees, meet me Monday, right? And for the new office, and we're going to get started writing the software, right? Building the algorithms. So we're all excited. Everybody shows up Monday. It's the big grand thing. I unlocked the door. I had been super busy. And in the back of my mind, I felt like I forgot something. I opened the door and there's like a collective gasp. The office is empty. And they're like, dude, you never bought furniture. I did forget something. I never got furniture. So I was like, guys, sorry, I've been a little preoccupied. And they're like, what do you want us to do? I said, give me 2 days. I'll go out and buy furniture, come back Wednesday. So I'm out looking for furniture all day. And on the way home, I pass the office and all the cars are still there. And so I pull over, I open the door and I go in. You know what they had done? They had gone to the doors. They had unscrewed the hinges. They had found some of those little waste baskets that the previous company left. They flipped the waste baskets over. They took all the doors off. They laid them on the waste baskets. They sat on the floor and they were writing code. Rock stars don't rely on money as a crutch. Rock stars innovate, okay? So I want to talk to you about how do you hire rock stars. By the way, you know what excuse? When I say you, I mean business owners give me. I can't afford her. She's too expensive. She's a rock star, but she's too expensive. So you know what you do? You fall into this conventional wisdom that if I have, I'll make up dumb numbers, if I have $100 and an average employee salary is $20, but she's $50. And I'm like, you tell me I can't afford her, she's $50. And then I find out that you ultimately hired 5 $20 people. What you should have done was hired 2 $50 people. So when you tell me you can't afford it, take all your money, stop hiring average people, and give it all to the rock stars. That is how we were successful. I hired less people, but I spent the money on the rock stars. The key to success is surrounding yourself. By the way, let me sort of tell you where leadership changed for me. Sometimes I ask kids when I speak at schools, I ask them, what does the boss do? You guys are the CEO, the owner, the leader. Right? Even if you're in a corporate job, you're the leader. Every child will tell you the boss is the person that tells everybody else what to do. That's how we were raised. That is wrong. As long as I believe that, I did not achieve growth. I'm the boss. I own the company. I'm the CEO. I'll tell everybody what to do. I achieved success when I inverted that. The truth is, leaders, real leaders, do not build followers. Real leaders build other leaders. It's kind of funny because lately people have been all over me. On my case, I get these every day. Someone says, you don't have very many followers on social media. And I was like, my goal is not, in fact, to build followers. And they're like, well, then people don't know what you've done. I said, if you want to see what I've done, here's a list of names of the people I've raised. Go look at the millions of followers they have. My success is reflected in the people I've raised. Go see what they've done if you want to see what I've been doing. My job is not to collect followers. My job is to create leaders. That's what leadership looks like. I didn't know that. When I figured it out, my whole life changed. What I started doing was recognizing, by the way, even if you're doing well, you're not as smart as you think you are. And success is misleading because when you're a small business owner, even a solo entrepreneur, you're wearing 7 hats. And it's going pretty well, so you must be pretty good at this. You're not. You're good at one thing, every one of us. I have never hired an engineer who did my taxes, did the engineering, and then wrote our marketing copy. It doesn't work that way. So why do you, because you own the business, think you can do all those things? Because you're doing them, because you have to. What I'm telling you is the only way you're going to actually achieve growth is when you stop doing the things you're not good at, hand them off to rock stars, and just do the one thing you're good at. By the way, I'm a software engineer. We're sitting there in the kiosk company writing code. And all of a sudden I notice no one's clicking but me. And I look up and I think, what's going on? And they're like, dude, we need to talk to you. And I said, what? And they said, first we need you to back away from the keyboard. and I said, why? And they said, yeah, you need to stop writing code. I said, wait, time out. This is my company. I own the company. I'm the CEO. And they said, and somehow you still suck at this. And I said, okay, what degree do you have? They said, Jeff, we all have computer science degrees like you, except we're really good and you're not. And I just sat there. I said, what is it you guys want me to do? And they're like, one, stop helping us. Two, go figure out what marketing is because we're almost done with the product and no one here knows how to market. Turns out, because I hired rock star developers, which I'm going to tell you that story in a little bit, I found out that compared to them, I'm less than average. So you know what I'm really good at? Marketing. The building the brand, doing the marketing, the messaging, that's what we crushed. Priceline was a giant marketing experiment early on. Marketing is the one and only thing I'm really good at. I don't do anything else. I don't run my companies. If you have a question about anything that's not marketing, I will refer you to the person in the company that's way smarter than me. Okay? And by the way, the bad advice you're going to get. One day somebody came up to me and he was reading a cash flow statement. And he's like, you know how to read these, right? I said, not really. I can kind of get it. And he said, aren't you the CEO? I said, yeah. And he said, you need to know everything going on in your company, especially because it's your money. Probably a lot of you have been told that. It is wrong, okay? But I believed it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know everything that's going on in my company. I can't read the financial statements. I'm more of a marketing guy. So I went to the store and I got a book called Finance and Accounting for Dummies, basically. And I was all excited. I'm going to learn finance. I went home and I opened that book. And on page 1, I was like, this is literally one of the stupidest things I've ever done. What am I going to do next? I'm going to go back to the bookstore. I'm going to get a book called How to Be a Dentist. And I'm just going to pull my own teeth? Probably not. I'm going to a dentist. So why are you doing the books? Why are you doing the marketing if that's not your thing? And so at that moment, I was like, I need to just do, that advice is wrong. You don't need to know everything. That would be like in the middle of a baseball game, the coach walking out to the right fielder and saying, you need to work on your pitching. And the guy's like, yeah, I lead the league in home runs. You brought me here to hit. That would never happen. So you thinking you can play every position is bad thinking. The key to success is to surround yourself with people smarter than you in every area but the one thing you do. So my job changed. I want to explain this in a sec. My job changed. Sorry for the premature clicking right there. Did not mean to click that button. Okay, let's do that. My job changed only when I realized that by spending less time running the company and more time finding rock stars to run it for me and letting go, you have to get out of the way and let those people go do this thing. In fact, I think since we started early, I want to be respectful of time. I'm going to tell another story that's not in here. But since luckily I was able to start a little early. I was asked by Inc. magazine, they said, write an article about leadership. The article's still out on Inc.com. It's under my name, but I'm going to tell you the story. The name of my article, the title of the article was Hire the Best and Then Go Pick Up Their Laundry. I'm going to tell you guys the story because this is what leadership looks like, not what I was taught. I figured this all out the hard way. I'm on the road, my team calls, like, Jeff, we met this 20-year-old kid. He's a rock star developer, right? Algorithm guy. I said, you don't need my permission to hire him. I get back to the office at the end of the trip. In the morning, I look at all of his work to see the product he's building. At lunch, I wander down, and they're all still eating lunch. They're all still working, no one's going to lunch. So I'm going to buy them lunch. So I want to find out if they want, whatever, pizza, Chinese food, what do you want? So I said, can I get you guys something? Now, the 20-year-old doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know I own the company. He doesn't know I'm the CEO. So the 20-year-old kid has no idea who I am. I walk in the conference room, and I said, can I get you guys something? The 20-year-old, who again doesn't know I'm the CEO or the owner, glances over his shoulder. He's busy. He says, would you go pick up my dry cleaning? Literally all the air sucked out of the room, right? Because everyone else knows that the 20-year-old just asked the CEO to pick up his dry cleaning. You know what it reminded me of? Like in the movies when when you hear the click because someone stepped on a landmine and everybody freezes, right? As that guy's about to blow up. They're all looking at me to see what I'm going to say. I said, sure, where's the ticket? And he said, it's on my chair. And I walked out. A little bit later, I'm outside and my 2 VPs come running. Jeff, please don't fire him, don't fire him. He didn't know who you were. He doesn't know you're the owner. He didn't know it's not his fault. I was like, guys, calm down. And they're like, well, please don't fire him. And I was like, why do you think I'm going to fire him? And they said, because you're so mad. I said, wait, why do you think, Jason can tell you, have you ever even seen me mad in all these years? I don't really do that. Yeah, right. I said, wait, why do you think I'm mad? And they said, because you stormed out of the building. I said, I didn't storm out of the building. And they said, then why did you leave the office? I said, so I could pick up that kid's dry cleaning. And they said, what? And I said, let me tell you something. I said, that kid is the most brilliant designer I've ever seen in my life. That kid is designing a product that will triple the size of this company. It will probably win awards. By the way, that December, I was on stage in Silicon Valley being handed the ICE Award, which was the Internet Commerce Expo, for the best new product on the internet, and Steve Jobs gave me the award because of that 20-year-old kid. I said, so not only am I going to go pick up that kid's dry cleaning, but if you guys need me after lunch, I will be out back washing that kid's car. Okay? That is what leadership is. Your job is to hire rock stars and take care of them. Build the company where all the best people in your industry all want to work for you and never want to leave. The coolest thing I ever did was I sold a company, and I was at a TV station to do an interview, and the TV reporter, the woman's like, these are amazing results. We had 1,200% a year revenue growth. She's like, revenue and profits and dollars and money, and Mr. Hoffman, these are amazing accomplishments. What are you most proud of? On the way to the station, the woman that ran HR for me called me, Angela, and she said, Jeff, this is so cool, I just verified it. And I said, what? She said, in all the years, from the day you started your company to the day you sold it, no one that worked for you has ever quit. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life, and I don't even know how I did it. I'm calling them from the TV station, and I was like, why don't you guys quit? And they're like, is there a problem? Do you want us to quit? And I was like, no, I just don't understand why no one ever leaves. Let me get a pen and a pencil. And I said, tell me what I did that makes no one ever leave this place so next time I can do it on purpose. Okay, that's your job. Your job is to serve. It is a servant leadership model. Your job is to lead by serving. When there's a tie in the building, I'll make the decision. I'm the CEO. But if there's not a tie and Angela tells me what to do, she's smarter than me. Yes, ma'am, we will go do that. That's how my companies grew when I got out of the way. I will make the decisions and I will make the marketing decisions because I know how to do that, but not everything else in the company. This is important. My whole life, everybody's always talked about getting rich. We live in this culture, the culture of, there's a TV show called Billions, right? There's a song called I Want to Be a Billionaire. The music videos, all this distraction of everybody chasing money. And in fact, in our world, in startup and entrepreneurship world, everybody talks about what's your exit strategy. And I always sit there thinking, exit strategy, guys, what's your entrance strategy? What are you exiting, your PowerPoint? You made a PowerPoint and now you're shopping for new cars? I see this every day. What's your entrance strategy? My entire life, I never had an exit strategy. And again, I'm not here to talk about money, but I was the one who always got paid. You know why? Because I always had an excellent strategy. I would tell my team, if an investor keeps pushing you for exit strategy too early, get another investor. People say, well, the investors want to see it, so I have to talk about exit strategy. No, you don't. You need to talk about excellent strategy and go talk to a different investor. Don't let them talk you into the importance of exit strategy. The only way you are ever going to get rich is if you create something amazing in the world. So you should be heads down focused on excellence, and the rest will happen. Right? And that was that's one of the most important things I can ever share, because I never had an exit strategy. I never let anybody talk me into it, but I sure as hell had an excellent strategy. I was sitting in my office one day, and these guys in dark suits come in. And I was like, can I help you? I thought it was like the IRS or something. And they're like, we're from M&A. And I was like, the university? And they're like, no, moron, that's A&M. And I said, I'm serious. I said, then I don't know what M&A is. And they said, it's mergers and acquisitions. And I was like, look, I'm a software engineer that does marketing. I don't know what that is. And they're like, your company's freaking incredible. We want to buy it. Never once did I use the word exit strategy. And these people just walked in the door and said, your company's incredible. Your people are amazing. Your product's amazing. Your service is amazing. We don't think we can build what you built. Can we just buy your company? Excellence is the only exit strategy. Okay? So that was really, really important. That was how, let me back up. That process is how we created the things that we created, right? By heads down focus on hiring rock stars, everything I just told you. Solve a real problem, have one gold medal product, use your gold medal talent, and hire rock stars. That formula, as simple as it is, was the formula to create 3 times we've created multi-billion-dollar companies. I had another company called ubid.com that some of you might have heard of. We took that public, and that also became a multi-billion-dollar company. The formula isn't rocket science, but as simple as it sounds, no one does this stuff. Okay? That's when people say, what did you do to succeed? We did fundamental blocking and tackling. I just gave you the list. So I got curious. Now remember, our other theme that we're weaving in here is that's how to build excellent business and profitable businesses. But I also wanted to live the life I wanted to live, not the stuff I said I was going to do and never did because I have a company and I have a mortgage now, right? So those note cards on the mirror I always have one of something else. This is my question to you. Name another homework assignment. If you could write down one thing you want to do with your life so you look back one day and say, that was a pretty good ride. That's all this is about, right? It isn't about getting rich and famous. It's about looking back and say, I actually like the way my life turned out, even with all your mistakes and everything you did wrong. Somebody said to me the other day, why are you, just out of the blue, he came up, this guy, and he said, why are you always so chill? And I never thought of me that way. And I said, I guess because I actually like my life. I don't want to be someone else. I'm pretty happy with the life that I have because I designed it that way, right? That's all we want for all of you. That's why I'm here today in hopes that if I can do anything to help you get to that point where you look back and say, I don't want to be someone else. I like my life. That is our only definition of success. So you write down something else you have to do. So I have always had a huge passion for the entertainment industry. Jason and I have known each other for 25 years. By the way, I have to tell you a quick manifesting story. So I'm sitting at home. I am watching, because I'm about to tell you about work I did in entertainment, I am watching The Wonder Years because it's on Nick at Night. The episode is an episode where Wayne Arnold has a friend that comes home from the Vietnam War and cannot get adjusted into the world. And Jason's character deals with Wayne. Okay, I don't know if any of you saw this episode. Did that episode win an Emmy?
Nominated.
It was nominated for an Emmy. Okay, I'm sitting at home, I'm watching this episode. If you haven't seen it, find it. Because the role that, what Jason does in that episode, I'm sitting at home by myself streaming tears. It was so powerful. And then I watched it literally the next day. Well, we were at the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
I was doing, I'm about to tell you, music conference. I was doing a Super Bowl thing with Elton John. A concert, and I'm walking through the area, and all the people are out there, the celebrities and stuff, because they're all hoping to meet Elton John. And Elton is asking me who's out there, because he wants me to bring people back to meet. But anyway, I'm walking along the night after in tears over that episode, and there's Jason Hervey standing there. And I was like, no way. I literally was thinking about that man all night, now he's just standing in the room. So I think it just manifested, and we stopped. Our first meeting was kind of awkward because I think I walked by from the show and I said, hey, butthead, which everybody says to Jason from the show. But anyway, we connected in like 2 seconds, and we've been family for 25 years from a chance meeting that happened the night after I was in tears because his episode was so incredibly well scripted and acted out. So things happen that way in the world. And the reason I'm saying all that, Jason, is because my foray into entertainment wouldn't have happened without his help. So I've always been fascinated by entertainment. And I wrote some things on my mirror. One of them was, one day, I just want to go through the process of his business. I'm very left-brained, right? I do business deals all day and write algorithms. So I said, I need to exercise the right size of my brain. Right side, I'm going to take a break from tech, and I'm going to get into the entertainment industry to learn how creative people create. And my thought was, I just want to make one movie in my life. And by the way, talk about entrepreneurial attitude. Because your attitude determines your outcome, guys. If you let people tell you you can't, then you already can't, right? And so I said, I'm going to make an independent film. And people said 98% of all indie films will never see the light of day. And I said, okay. And they said, wait, what part of 98% failure rate are you not listening to? You know what I'm thinking? Who has the phone number for those other 2 people? Because 2 people figured it out, and I thought there was probably only 1 chance. I need to talk to those people. Entrepreneurs look at the 2 that made it. Everyone else in the world looks at the 98. So I decided I wanted to go make a movie. And now another thing I need to share with you, do not fear failure. Fear not trying. If I make that movie, 98% chance it will never be in a theater near you. By the way, I'll tell you another thing that's written on my wall at home. I wrote, improbable, yes, impossible, no. Because everything I do, like, dude, it's impossible. You're a software guy. You're not going to make a movie. It's not going to be in theaters. And they would say it's impossible. And I would, in my brain, say, impossible? I would say this. It's written on my wall. Improbable, yes. Impossible, no. The stuff I'm about to show you was highly improbable, but it wasn't impossible, so I tried it anyway. Don't fear failure. Fear not trying. The reason is, if I try to make a movie and it fails, I can say it wasn't for me. I'm over it. But if I never did, every time I set foot in a theater the rest of my life, I'm going to wonder if that could have been me. And that eats away at you from the inside. Don't do that. Just try. Failing's okay, not trying isn't. So that's the first movie we ever made. You don't have to see it. I'm afraid I didn't want my mom to see it because I didn't want to be grounded for life. It's a bloody horror flick. But just so you'll know, we wrote this, we shot this, produced it, directed it. We're all in it. And that scene, my friend Eli Roth, he's in the middle there. Eli had never made a movie. I had obviously never made a movie. But I financed it. I die in the movie, so that's him killing me. You can't see, but I'm bleeding from a head wound right there. Anyway, we wrote, shot, filmed, directed, produced. I financed this, right? Eli wrote and directed it. I negotiated the distribution deals. We made this little movie for $1.3 million. But I told you I'm a marketing guy and a business guy. We did a good job of that, let's just say. It wound up opening in 3,000 theaters across the country. I sold it in 49 other countries, and it made like $98 million worldwide. People that all told me, you're a software engineer, you can't make a movie, they would say, how'd your little movie turn out? And you know what I would say? I would say, it was fine. That was it. I actually felt bad telling people that we sold it all over the world. It's actually on Netflix and Hulu right now. And it's all these years later. And Jason, you'll get a kick out of this. Last month, I got another distribution check because people are still watching this on Netflix and Hulu for some reason. It's not.
I just watched it last week.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not going to watch that. I don't want to see any gory.
Okay, well, don't watch it. No, don't watch it. Anyway. We were able to do that. We started producing some television. Again, I'm just going to say it, Jason, without your relationships and the things you taught me, I wouldn't have done any of this stuff. You have helped me from the beginning. That's the power of having rock stars in your life, okay? This guy knows this stuff, so why do I want to be around him? Because that's where I'm going to that's where I'm going to learn from the people who've done it. We just won our second Emmy last year. For a TV production company. We won it for a show that I'm executive producing that's on the new definition of success for this generation. So we're redefining what success means for this generation because it's not what I grew up with, and that's what we got these Emmy nominations for. These pictures are embarrassing. I have to back up. I also did a music company because it was on my mirror. I would love to just once be the person that brings the music and produce it. So again, just so you guys will know, when I said this, all my friends are, there goes the idiot dreamer. You're a software guy, right? You can't be in the music industry. I'm not actually going to sing, and I'm sure as hell not going to dance, right? But I am going to do the upfront business part, and I'm going to do the marketing. And so I'm just going to, failing's okay. I just don't want to go to concerts the rest of my life and wonder if I could have created one. So we created a music company to do tours and concerts. These are embarrassing, but we did NSYNC. That's me on tour. Obviously, I was not healthy then with Justin Timberlake. Actually, I talked to the boys yesterday because I don't know if you know, they just released their first song in 20 years. And I didn't know if they had known this yet. It was the highest debut for a new song in the history of the Billboard charts. Because the guys were telling me, I don't know if people remember us. That's what the NSYNC guys said. Their single that they just released is the highest debut in the history of the Billboard charts. Pretty sure people remember them. That was the concert I was talking about with Elton. That we did a Beyonce tour. Those are my two assistants in the middle of me and Beyonce. And then today, this is one of my best friends and business partners is Pitbull. In fact, I just finished telling him about GoBundance because I was talking to him on the car on the way over here, and he asked what this organization was. So now we'll just move into the last part, which we're going to talk about the giving back part. This is the difference between improbable and possible, between believing and giving yourself a chance, right? Between trying to design businesses that give you a chance to live the life you always wanted. I just wanted to be around the music, right? And be on the tour bus and be backstage and see the audience during the NSYNC shows, even in the Pitbull shows now. I just did this recently. A friend of mine has this group called Pentatonics. Do you guys know what that is? Kevin's one of the singers of Pentatonics. And so I was just with him at one of his shows, and I always go out in the audience, take the ID off, and go sit out there to just listen to the joy that the music brings people. And then I can go back and tell Kevin the comments, and I used to do that during the NSYNC days. That's something I just always wanted to experience. Give yourself a chance. By the way, what you're not seeing here is I've had some incredibly stupid ideas that failed miserably. They're not on this chart. But don't think I didn't fail because I had some dumb ideas. The difference is I fail fast because I only do one thing at a time. Okay? I have that gold medal talent. This is the thing I'm going to try to do. If it doesn't work, leave your ego at the door. I'm okay saying, man, that was stupid. And you're going to get ridiculed, and you're going to get laughed at, and you're going to shake it off. I used to tell my team, you can spend all day Saturday crying because we're closing the company Friday. You can spend all day Sunday getting drunk or whatever you want to do. But Monday morning, shake it off because I got another idea. Okay, failure happens, shake it off. People are like, what's the secret to overcoming failure? There's no secret. It sucks. Go home and cry and then shake it off. That's the formula. All right, so we produced one album ever. We all like jazz. We feel like jazz is disrespected. One of my friends is a jazz saxophonist. He came to me and said, we should make a jazz album. We produced an album there's a funny moment that I had forgotten. We were in the studio one night. I financed it. So I was the producer that's getting studio time and engineers and mixing and mastering. I'm not making the music, but we're producing it that way. And I remember one night in the studio, the guy's like, dude, you're never going to see this money again, and no one's ever going to hear this music. I said, it's a passion project for me to go through the creative experience once in my life of making an album. And I said, don't worry about it. But on the way out the door, I forgot, I said this. I said, look, we know no one's ever going to hear this music, but just play like you're trying to win a Grammy, right? My point to you guys is do everything in your life like you're trying to win a Grammy, but there is a crazy ending to the story, which is that we won a Grammy. So that is me on the Grammy red carpet. By the way, if you can see, I'm taking pictures because I don't live Jason's life. I am taking pictures of all the paparazzi taking pictures of me because it's so stupid that they're taking my picture. And by the way, they are yelling at me saying, you can't take pictures. I was like, clearly I can. I'm doing it right now. The best moment on the red carpet, though, was somebody yelled to me. By the way, the person to my right was Madonna. I cut her out of the picture on purpose. But they know the other people. These people hold a sign that says what you are. Grammy, Best Jazz Album Producer, and your name, because they don't expect you to know the producers and stuff, right? And somebody over here yelled to me, how do you feel right now? And I said, this is the dream of software engineers everywhere. And they're like, what? And the little headset dude goes, you're killing the vibe, just walk away. And I was like, whatever. I was not talking to them. I was talking to my childhood self that everybody said, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, those ideas are stupid. That's who I was talking to. This was never a dream, but it was a little bit part of it. So I have to share now the transition into giving back. That's what we're going to end with today. I am standing in Hollywood. We just won a Grammy, right? And I am this kid from a poor single mom in the Arizona desert. And I'm like, I was walking away. I told the guys afterwards, because then you go backstage, right, and you walk through the media gauntlet. When you see the people win a Grammy and then they go out, they come up the stage, but they're in the back, there's 45 minutes worth of media back there. So at the end, I looked down, and I don't think my feet were touching the ground, right? It was just such a high. I was floating. And so I told my friends, I was like, I need to walk away for a minute by myself, right, for gratitude. I hope you guys do that all the time. Everywhere I am, everything I do, I close my eyes to make sure I am doing gratitude, okay? And so I walked away by myself, and I was standing there, and I had this thought. I can't believe this is my life. How is this real? How is this my life? But then I had a life-changing thought that fueled my giving back. I thought this: every human being deserves a red carpet moment. Let me tell you what a red carpet moment is, and it's the reason that I'm here. People say, why do you go speak? You know, I have something, I'm going from here to Europe to speak to a room that's about 8,000 people. So they're like, you go to lots of little stuff too. There's a reason I do what I do. This is it. Let me tell you what my definition of a red carpet moment. I want everyone in this room, or as many people as I can impact in the world, to have a moment where you look around and you say, I can't believe this is my life. That's it. That's the goal. It's for you to get to a point where you feel so blessed. You say, how can this be real? How can this be my life? How could I be this blessed? Because once I had that feeling, I was like, I know what I need to do with the whole rest of my life. I need to get everyone else there. Let me tell you the first experiment. I was going to Cleveland to speak to a school in the inner city. on the east side of Cleveland. It was a school where you had to go through not one but two metal detectors in case you slipped a gun past the first one. How do you think a little girl going to school through two metal detectors, you've already labeled her a criminal. You already made her feel bad just going to school there. It was just horrible. So I asked the kids to take out a note card and tell me what their red carpet moment would be. How would your life look in the future so that you would get, what would you have to get to so you could say, I'm asking you the same question, another homework assignment. Draw out what your life would look like that you would say, I can't believe this is my life now. And it's multidimensional. Your family, your friends, your physical health, your financial health, your spiritual health. Draw the life that would make you say, wow, how is this possible that this is my real life? It's when I realized that, then I started helping people. So one little girl, I asked them to read the card. One little girl won't make eye contact, and she won't read. She just stands there like this. So I took her aside into the corner, and I said, if you feel like it, tell me what your red carpet moment is. You don't have to do it in front of people. And this is what she said, and I'm sorry for the harshness of this. She said, just one time before I die, I want my mother to say one nice thing to me. And I said, what's the story? She said, well, my father was murdered trying to murder someone else, so he got what he deserved. How would you like that to be the legacy of your father? She said, he was a bad person and someone killed him before he killed them. I said, what about your mother? She said, my mother wakes up every day, looks at me and says, you are a worthless piece of shit and I wish you'd never been, I'm sorry. I wish you'd never been born. It still makes me very emotional because this little girl with tears in her eyes, every day her mother says, you're a worthless piece of shit and I wish you'd never been born. And she said, my red carpet moment, Mr. Hoffman, would be if I am so successful, she wasn't talking about money, right? If I turn into such a good person that one day my mother is forced to say, I'm proud of you. She said, one good word and I'm good. That's the life I want. And that defined our giving back that I'm about to talk to you, right? I said, I know what my mission is. By the way, I will tell you the rest of this story because the charity foundation I created for youth, our foundation's World Youth Horizons, we sent her to college. She is a 4.0 pre-med student on the way to being a pediatric surgeon. And when I went to campus, she's this bright, bubbly, you'd never recognize her. And all the other kids tell me that she tutors everybody for free on campus. This girl, because somebody cared, right? She's incredible. I'm just crazy. I'm sorry, I got emotional because how much pain she used to be in. If you saw her today, we took her out of the neighborhood, we sent her away, and she's a 4.0 pre-med student who's going to go to med school and be a pediatric surgeon, and she's a freaking rock star. It's incredible what happens when somebody gives people a chance that don't have one. So I will tell you the other story of giving. By the way, this is not my house. Don't go there, okay? I just Googled on the internet, nice home. And so I will tell you, because one day some guy was taking a picture of it, and I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to try to find it. I was like, dude, that is not my house. It's just a picture. So let me explain this to you. I had a point in my life where things were going well, like I showed you, right? And I actually felt bad a little bit because a lot of people are suffering, and we had a lot of business ideas that worked, and I got paid multiple times, and I'm not even a materialistic guy. And I was feeling bad that I was living well and other people weren't. And sports is my escape. And so this night I was feeling bad. By the way, I was feeling bad because I was also getting hate. People that I thought were friends, once I made money, treated me different. And I called my dad one night, why does everybody hate me? He said, they don't, they're just jealous. I said, well, that's not really better, Dad. I thought they were my friends. He said, then those people weren't your real friends, right? They're not the Jason, the guy that I could call 25 years later and he'd be there in 5 minutes if I needed him. He said, your real friends want you to succeed and they're happy for you. All those people that just hate you now were never your friends. I said, well, you're not really helping right now. So I was depressed. And so when I'm depressed, I turn on sports. And I was turning on sports, and there was a news story of all these women that were crying. Okay? And I was watching the news story, and I thought there must have been a mass murder. But I recognized the neighborhood because it was in the city I lived in. So I paid attention. What it was a shelter for abused women was closing. The next day, they all had to be out by midnight, and they were being evicted. And the news reporter, she says to the one woman, she's just doing her job, where will you go? And this woman said, and I'm sorry this is harsh, but it's the real world we live in. The one woman said, he told me he would kill me if he ever saw me again, so I can't go home. And she said, every night I lie awake in this house and I can't sleep because every sound the house makes, I think he found me and he's coming in to kill me. And the woman said, what do you do? And she said, hide in the streets because I have no money and nowhere to go. And the news reporter turned and says, how about you? And the other woman said, well, he broke all my ribs last time, so I can't go home. And she said, I have no money because I have these 2 kids, so I can't get a job because I have these 2 kids and I have no money for daycare, but I can't make money, right? She's stuck. She said, I can't get a job because I can't pay for daycare, and I can't pay for daycare because I don't have a job, so I've been stuck in this house forever. There's no way out. And she said, what will you do? And she said, I'll take the kids and hide in the street, and I'm sorry, but this is what she said, and hope I don't get kidnapped or raped. And the news reporter, who's doing her job, not her fault, turned and said, well, there's the story from here. She said, coming up next, sports. Just like that. And it just stopped my heart, because you know what world we live in? Coming up next, sports. Do you remember the Indonesian tsunami? Yes. Right? I turned the TV on one day, and I remembered this right then. And the reporter said, Indonesian death toll hits 90,000. Coming up next, Monday Night Football. Right? That was it. That was a blip. That's all it was in our life. And I was like, oh, thank God. So when this happened, I was actually, thank God the game's on, because I was already feeling bad and this made me feel worse. But I didn't change the channel right away because I said something. Oh, I forgot that. That was coming up next, sports. I said something that every one of you is guilty of saying, all humans. I was watching it and I thought, man, they should help those women. And then I had the life-changing, the epiphany moment in my life. If everybody watching this news story says they should help those women, who's helping those women? Nobody. We're all saying they should help those women. So my whole life changed in that minute, which is why I'm sharing that story. I stood up and I wrote the 4 words on my wall. They're still there. They're the reason when my friends say, why don't you retire? Right? I'll never stop. And this is the reason why. This is what I wrote on the wall, guys. There is no they. It's you. They don't help those women. They're not going to save those women. I am. They're not going to feed those children. I am. And you are. There's no they. And so when I wrote down there is no they, the whole relationship I had with money and feeling bad about it changed. You know what I did? I called the news station and I asked for the info. I'll come back to that. It was a public story. They gave me the info. I went to the bank and I didn't want to be in the story because I was afraid the story would be internet guy saves women. The story needs to be we need to protect our women. That house was created by 2 abused women. By the way, the reason I was so emotional, I didn't experience, my mom was never abused, but there was a news story one night and I only caught the end of it. And the woman said, well, she's in the hospital and she will recover from his wounds and he's in jail. It was the end of an abuse story. And the male reporter said, why didn't she just leave? But you know what that means? The first time a woman's abused, it's the man's fault. Every other time, it's her fault for not leaving. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. You don't leave because you have no money and nowhere to go. So when I found out these women bought this house so abused women could go somewhere, they didn't have any money. They were being evicted and foreclosed because they hadn't paid their mortgage in 4 months. So I went to the bank and I didn't want the story to be about me, so I didn't want to wire money or write a check. So I figured out how much cash I needed. And I just took actually my gym bag and took my shoes out and took my gym bag and went to the bank. Unfortunately, I went to the bank at break time because I went up to the teller this was an interesting life lesson. I went up to the teller and explained what I needed. And the teller went on break. And I was like, okay, I see you're going on break, but can someone help me? And the woman at the next counter went on break. And I was like, everybody's leaving. And then I noticed they were all going in the vault. And a few minutes later, while I'm standing there, somebody please help me. I'm standing alone. And I see this face peek around. It's actually the bank president who's not usually there. Everybody's there once every 2 weeks. He's like, hang on, stop. The woman had hit the silent alarm with her foot. And he said, call the police. I know that guy. It's Mr. Hoffman. And he came out and he told everyone, you can all go back to work. It's fine. And I said, what's the problem? And he said, next time you walk into the bank, set down a duffel bag and ask us to fill it with cash. That's a bank robbery. And I was like, I'm sorry, I just got excited. Because I put the bag down and I said, I need this much cash in this bag, like now. And he's like, don't do that ever again. I got the cash. I went to the house. And the women were at the house all crying because they had until midnight to get out. And I said to the woman, may I speak to you for 30 seconds? She said, whatever I owe you, I can't pay you. I said, you don't owe me anything. And she said, does this look like a good time to talk? I said, I need 30 seconds. And she said, go away. I said, I'll go away if you give me 30 seconds. The women were all crying and packing. And I pushed the duffel bag over. She said, what is that? I said, just open it. She opened it and she goes, all right, what is this? She was very suspicious. And I said, you're 4 months behind on your mortgage. It's in there. And she said, there's way more money than 4 months. I said, I also figured out all your bills for the entire next year. I paid all your bills for the next year so you guys can just chill for a year and not worry about money. And she got up to run and tell the ladies, I said, hang on, one more thing. And I said, that woman, I said, I also put enough money in there for you to build a security system and hire an on-premise security guard. I just couldn't sleep myself all night thinking about that woman, scared to death every night that someone was going to break in. So I said, I gave you enough money for a security system and a security guard. And she got up and I grabbed her wrist one more time. I said, one more thing. I said, these women will never get out of here in this situation, so I also gave you enough money to add a daycare center and hire people to watch their kids so they can go get a job. And she ran off screaming, and I left. By the way, thanks. Thank you. I parked 3 blocks away so they wouldn't see my car, and I spent the next 25 minutes trying to figure out where the hell my car was, but that's the part of the story you don't need to know. That night, I turned the news on. And the women were crying again. And the woman said, this time they're tears of joy. And the same reporter said, what happened? And she said, it was a miracle. Some man came in and did everything I told you. And I turned and wrote something else on my board that I want you guys to really internalize. That's what I wrote down. Your success is someone else's miracle. I was like, it wasn't a miracle. I just work really hard. I hire good people. I take good care of them. I run good companies. I take good care of my customers. None of that's a miracle. Right? And she said, it was a miracle. I said, no, your success is someone else's miracle. And that changed my relationship with money. Not only did I not feel bad, but I was like, I need to go back to work and make some more money because there's somebody else that I can help out there. I also wrote that down. Guys, there's no shame in life in making money. The shame is in not using your success to help others. One day, unfortunately, Michael, at my best friend's funeral, I remember thinking something. What would people say if it was your funeral today? And I was afraid people would comment on, I made a lot of money running businesses. Oh, he was a successful businessman. That means money or whatever. I don't want to be judged by the number of dollars I made. I want to be judged by the number of other people's lives I made better. Okay? The way that I do that is building successful businesses. That enables me to make other people's lives better. I can't send that little girl in Cleveland to college if I'm not good at business. I can't buy this house if I'm not good at business. So let me tell you what we did with it, and I promise I'm almost done, that I want you to do. I'm sitting in my office the next day. My employees come in. Everyone's in the break room buzzing. The TV's on. They're like, did you hear what happened last night? It's all over the news. I said, what? And they're like, some mysterious man, right? And they're saying they saved the house and the women are all okay and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, that's really cool. And I go back to writing. And Heather, my employee, goes, wait, that's really cool? That's all you have to say? I said, no, I think it's amazing. And she goes, Jeff, I just thought knowing you, you'd be more excited. I said, oh, super exciting. And then she said, Jeff. And we made eye contact. And she looked at me and she said, it was you, wasn't it? And I said, okay, fine, it was me. I was already busted. And she ran down the hall telling everybody, it was Jeff. All my employees came into my office and they said, it was you. But then I had another realization. They're all saying it was you, wasn't it? And I looked at all those faces of all my employees and I said, no. And they said, what do you mean it wasn't you? I said, it was you. I said, the only reason I can write that check is because I have the best damn employees on the planet. I said, you did that, not me. And I swear to God, guys, I could see like Heather's heart, I think her chest. She put her hand on her heart, actually, right at that moment. And I was like, wow, everyone in this building just changed. And they said, it was us, wasn't it? I said, yeah, you did that, not me. Every employee went to the phone and called their families. The news story everyone's talking about, I did that. Their whole relationship with working for our company changed at that moment. So I got an idea. Every quarter, I take the quarterly community fund. Every quarter, I take a percentage of the money we make, and here's the difference. When you, as a business owner, people tell me, well, I make donations. If I work for you, and you're the CEO, and you write a check to a charity, and you tell the company, we wrote a check on behalf, you wrote the check. I don't feel that. I'm an employee. What did your company? My company wrote a check. You know what I do? I give the money to all my employees and I say, go find someone to give this to. And I let my employees do it every single quarter. They take the money every quarter and they go out and find somebody in the community. I'm going to give you an example. One day I went into the conference room and they were making some giant schedule. And I said, why is my whole company in the room and I wasn't invited? They're like, we don't need you for this. I said, what are you doing? Because they were making second and third shifts. And they said, we're organizing to babysit each other's kids and pets. I said, time out. I don't ask anybody to work double shifts or triple shifts. They said, we know. That's why we didn't bring you into the room. We knew you'd be opposed to it. I said, what are you doing? And they said, we noticed in this customer contract a $100,000 bonus for finishing the contract early and under budget. So we're going to work double shifts. We're going to babysit each other's kids, and we're going to get this bonus. I said, I get it because you guys want the cash. They said, no, about that. They said, we want to know if we can put the cash in the community fund. I said, you don't want the money? They said, no. So what's going on? They said, on the news last night, they announced that a tenement house in the poor part of town burned down, and all those families had no insurance. They lost everything they owned, all their clothing, all their belongings. They said, we called Habitat for Humanity, and we just want to take the money and go build homes for all of those people. You know what I saw on the news 2 weeks later? There was a news report. All my employees were wearing my company t-shirt, and they were building homes. And it says, local company builds homes for families that lost their homes. You don't think that's good for business? I didn't ask anybody to do that. But the glow from our employees being out in the community, building homes for those people. And one last thing I'll tell you. Heather, the girl that busted me, one day I said, I don't care what time you come in, but you seem to come in 15 minutes later every day now. And she said, I do. I said, why? She said, every day on the way to work, I drive past the women's shelter. Then I stop for a minute in front of these homes, and I watch these families who've never had running water, working electricity in a safe house. I watch them getting their kids ready for school. I sit there for a minute, then I go to work. How do you think that changes their relationship with work? That is when they told me, we don't want to work anywhere else, right? The employees that never quit because they feel connected to their community because they built it. So I will challenge you to do those. By the way, it doesn't take money because some people say, when we make money, we'll do that. It's time, treasure, talent. One quarter we had no profits because we had 2 deferments. And I went to tell the employees, sorry, there's no community fund. They're like, Jeff, we're way ahead of you. We've done a food drive. We've done a clothing drive. We were going to go visit. It was holiday time. We were going to go visit all the nursing homes we did research of the people who have been dumped there and no family ever visits them. We are going to go take all those people out shopping and spend time with all the people who are left to die in a facility and have no family to visit them. None of this costs a dime. My employees were all over the community taking care of people for free. You don't need anybody to do that. I'm not going to do this last story. This last part was about leaving a legacy for your employees, and I won't do that now. We don't have the time. I just want to tell you, this was the entity that we do this all under. I created my own charity. That's it. It's called World Youth Horizons. That is one of our, I have hundreds of children now. The goal of our charity, I focus really on youth, right? If I could, I'd spend every day with kids and not adults. Kids are just adults that haven't been screwed up by the world yet, okay? So I love being with kids. The goal of World Youth Horizons is to give children who do not have a chance at a better life, a chance at a better life. Like the little girl I told you about. This example right here, in Uganda, they had a civil war and all the parents killed each other. All the children were left to die in the jungle. So we round up all those kids and raise them. I bought, through World Youth Horizons, I bought land. I built them a home. So teach them to be self-sustainable. We have a pig farm, a goat farm, chickens. We plant corn, we plant potatoes. We teach the kids how to raise the animals, how to breed the animals, how to raise the crops. They sell half the animals, so they have a little business now. And then the most important thing is we send them all to school. Schools in places like that, the schools don't even have food. So I actually send the food for 100 kids a day, every day, to the school so they can feed all the kids. We pay for the books. Education is the only way they can improve their lives. Where we do this in Ethiopia, there wasn't even a school, so we just built the school. And we just went there and talked teachers into leaving their schools and coming and teaching at our school. We do programs in the U.S., in Chicago and Detroit, and Pitbull and I were doing one down here in Miami. We did one out in Arizona recently at the Super Bowl. We work with kids. The focus of World Youth Horizons, I'll say it one last time, is to give children who don't have a shot at a better life a shot at a better life. That's what we do. So I am finished. I don't know if you had something you wanted to show.
We won't have time for the video.
Okay.
We're going to pop it in the Yap. But we do have a QR code that we're putting up here. We've got a $5,000 match for you guys to raise money. We want to just make sure that we share with this group. And absolutely, I'm so
Thanks.
blessed.
Thank you.
You are one of the most generous people. I mean, there's not an award big enough, honestly, Jeff, for just the contributions that you make in the world, because so many of us don't realize, for women in other countries, they don't have the opportunity that we do. I mean, we know it, but we don't really know it. And just taking that next step, please just find it in your heart to support him. Having a nonprofit where he takes care of all the admin fees. I know that's the biggest thing with people. A lot of times don't want to give because they don't want to pay overhead and other things. So thank you again, Jeff Hoffman.